In Jane's Addiction, I think it's safe to say that you were almost single-handedly responsible for changing the sound in rock music as it's heard today.
I'm glad somebody said it. Jesus Christ.
Who are some of your early influences?
I would say Jimi Hendrix, huge influence. Jimmy Page, you know, the dinosaur rock guitar players that everybody seems to hail. I guess I focus on those guys because they dealt with the technique end of things as well as the sound and the sonic quality end of things, whereas Jimmy Page and Jimi Hendrix weren't just ripping all the time. You know, they had a lot of soul, they had a lot of feel, and they complemented their music in a brilliant way. And sometimes it was with the use of sound rather than skill. And that's one of the things I really admired about those guys. When I got a little bit older, I focused in on guitar players like Daniel Ash from Bauhaus and Love and Rockets, Robert Smith from The Cure. Same thing, except no technique. Those guys focus on sound and simplicity. So I tried to make my playing like a well-rounded combination of the two styles, which would be a little bit of technique and a little bit of sound and simplicity.
Taking Hendrix as an example, as a rhythm player, what did you show, like how you draw from his style? Clean?
How do I draw from his style? Well, you know, usually I just steal. So it's not much of a you know, of an influence, more of a source of places to steal from, I guess. You know, I really enjoy how he will be playing a rhythm and like throwing licks in there at the same time, and it's kind of free-form sounding. And I don't know, I think the song that we have called Shallow Be Thy Game would be kind of a mock Hendrix rip-off type of a thing, where it's a lot of the excuse me, it's a lot of the that E9, is that what it's called? E9? That Hendrix, I guess, in my mind, is famous for using a lot of. And you know, I just basically took a riff around that chord, which is all in E, which yeah, like that.
Great. So your starting point sort of is, like you said, the E9 at the 7th fret.
That's what it's all revolving around. But the start of the riff is just a bend off on the, I guess, the low E string. I was always confused. Is this the low E string? Because it's higher.
It's higher, yeah.
It's higher on the neck.
Hold the guitar the other way. Yeah.
So I see what you're saying. Okay, so on the low E string, it was just a little pull off there. Back to that E. That's kind of like
yeah, straight across the
12th fret. It's not really a bar. It's not really a full bar. It's more focusing on the those three strings there. I don't know what that would be. Is that the second string? Second, third, and fourth?
Yeah, I would say 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 today.
Okay, so that's what that is. And a lot of the muted strings in between. Kind of that voodoo child vibe thing.
Yeah, it's so much more interesting just instead of just hanging out on that E9 for like what a lot of other players might do.
And you know, I had to think more in terms of what Flea was playing, you know, which I wanted to leave some space because he's such a fascinating and rhythmic bass player that, you know, everything he does deserves to have its place, and I would hate to come and piss all over his bass lines. You know, I mean, there's a part of me that would love to sit there and just go. But, you know, I would step all over everybody, which is not what I try to accomplish.
So you're thinking leaving space or filling in holes in the...
I'm not so much thinking that as much as I'm thinking about complementing an existing riff. And that song started with the bass line. And I wanted to play something that was complementary, yet different, but the two together would create a third entity, which became the bulk of the song. And so, you know, it's because there are times when no holes are better, you know? No space is better. It depends on like what it is you're to get across.
And I noticed you're playing this at a dirty setting.
Mm-hmm.
And what dictates to you, you know, clean or dirty or in between?
What dictates that is usually, once again, like the feeling that I'm trying to get across. If I'm trying to get like an aggressive feeling across, I will usually always tend to go to a dirty sound. If I'm trying to get like that rockin', thumpin' aggression out, I will pretty much go with the dirty sound and work from there. Sometimes I'll roll the volume back a little bit. If it's here to be full up, I'll roll it back a little bit. And it'll be like less aggressive without going completely clean.
Right.
Which sometimes I find I don't get enough aggression out of. But other times, you know, hitting completely clean can be aggressive too. It really depends on what the rest of your bandmates are doing and what it is you're trying to get out of it and what kind of feeling you're trying to put into it.
The riff, the droning riff you were doing
At the intro, that was the intro to Warped. You want?
Yeah, I'd like to see you kind of break that apart a little bit.
Okay. That one is, I'm using some effects on that. I don't know if you got camera angle to do this, but I'm stepping on a Boss digital delay and a Boss super chorus. I find that the individual pedals are a little bit more accessible for me. And I'm droning the E string, the low E.
Mm-hmm.
I'm leaving it open completely. And I'm doing most of my movement on the A string, starting at the octave of the low E.
Mm-hmm.
And kind of getting a little rhythm happening here. And I found that I can basically move myself anywhere on the neck on that A string and have it work. Even if I go to the wrong note, if I go there by accident, I can make that work by putting more feeling into it and possibly repeating it. One of the things that I found about accidents and mistakes is that if you go to the wrong note, play it a couple times and it sounds like you meant to do that. So if this note, for instance, was the wrong one, and that way I just repeat it and make it sound more dissonant.
Yeah, and you made it work that time.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that's how the song Warped starts out, with that little riff. And at a certain point, we all come crashing in like banshees.
Are you thinking melody when you come up with something like that, or is it really experimental? Where am I now? I'm going to make this work now.
And I'm not necessarily thinking about melody per se. I'm thinking of a specific framework that I want to stay in, which is the droning, kind of repetitive, dissident sound. But in terms of what I play, I pretty much focus on how it is I feel. So I might get more dissident if I feel a little bit more up in the head. But if I'm feeling non-creative and, you know, really uninteresting, I might play something that's just, I don't know, mediocre, I suppose. But the whole point I'm trying to make is that it's more of an improvisation rather than like a specific part.
Let's see.
And I don't know if I mentioned this, but I like to put those two effects on because it creates a more spacey dimension. And when the rest of the band comes crashing in, it's even more drastic of a change, rather than like being completely clean.
Because when the band comes in, you go to the
When the band comes in, I play that riff. So it's. And which I'll focus on that in a second, but the point I'm making is that with the spaciness, you know, starting off with the song, when the band comes in, it's more of an attack, a drastic change, and the effect, the desired effect was to have it like make your heart skip a beat a little bit the first time you heard it. But now that riff, if you're interested, is